In this game, Mikhail Tal's two bishops fight against Mikhail Botvinnik's two knights, and the knights prove to be stronger. Tal, playing white with his last move, knight a3, attacked the bishop on b5, and Botvinnik made a very unconventional decision to exchange both of his bishops for white knights. First he exchanged on e2, then after c takes d he opened his dark square bishop's diagonal, and after c takes d he took on a3. At first sight, it's strange to voluntarily give away both bishops. However, if we look at the resulting position, we will see that white has a lot of weaknesses on g4, d4, and a3, and the defense of these weaknesses would be problematic. Besides that, after b takes a, the pawn from b2 moved to a file, and now it cannot go to b3 and defend c4 square, which is a crucial square, and the knight would be ideally placed on c4. Besides that, the position is semi-closed, and it's very difficult for white bishops to be active. And that's why in this position, black knights are much stronger than white bishops, because the knights would attack all these pawn weaknesses, and white bishops will be forced to defend them. And the knights would dominate over the bishops, as you will see. Knight c6, developing the knight with tempo, attacking the weakness on d4, bishop e3 defending it, and queen a5 check. So black already can win a pawn, attacking a3 pawn also. Tal here wanted to avoid the queen exchange, as he was planning to create some attacking chances on the king side. That's why he played king f1. Botvinnik didn't take on a3 immediately, because a3 will be weak anyways, and it was more important to finish the development first, so he played knight e7. Rook b1 attacking b7, rook b8 defending it, bishop h3, and now again Botvinnik didn't take on a3 and made a stronger move, queen a4, attacking a much more important central pawn on d4. Tal played rook d1 defending it, and only now, after the rook moved from a more active square to a passive square, Botvinnik finally took on a3. And now he has a clear extra pawn, and pawn majority on the queen side. King g2, and here again, very strong, however, at first sight, strange move, queen a6. Improving the queen's position, however, letting white exchange on a6 and double the pawns, which was exactly what Tal did. He took on a6, and now, as you see, the pawns are doubled. However, it's not important, because black would almost force white to exchange rooks on b6, after which black would take with a pawn and improve the double pawns. h5, fixing the pawn structure on the king side, king d7, moving towards the center and opening the rook's way, rook b1, rook b6. So now, sooner or later, black would put another rook on the b file, creating intolerable pressure on b file and force white to take on b6. King g3, knight a5. Knight is heading to c4. And here Tal took on b6, as sooner or later he has to do it. A takes b. So as you see, again, black has a clear, healthy extra pawn now. f4, knight c4. Centralizing the knight with tempo, attacking the e3 bishop. Bishop c1. So one knight is placed greatly. Now it's time to activate the second knight, so knight c6. Again with tempo, attacking d4, rook d1 defending it, and knight b4 attacking a3. So if you look if you compare the black knights to white bishops, it would be clear that Botvinnik's decision was absolutely correct, because the bishops are very passive and aren't really doing anything, while the knights are great. a3, knight a2. The idea is to exchange the knight for the dark square bishop, because the bishop is defending a3, and after this exchange, a3 would be vulnerable, even more vulnerable. f5, knight takes, rook takes. Of course, yeah, now you can again compare the remaining light squares. The black knight is very strong, attacking a3, while the bishop is bad. So of course now taking on a3 right away would be a mistake, because white would have played rook a1, and after knight retreats would have taken on a6. That's why Botvinnik played b5. And now knight takes a3 is a real threat, because rook a1 doesn't work because of b4 defending the knight. That's why Tal defended the pawn, and the rook is now very passive. King e7, moving away from the unpleasant x-ray. King f4. Rook c8, putting a rook on the open file. g5. So Tal tries to create some tactical complications. f6 check, g takes h, and so on. But Botvinnik, in order to avoid all these complications, immediately took on g5 check. King takes g5, and again f6, h6 is unpleasant. That's why Botvinnik immediately took on f5. Bishop takes f5, rook c6. King f4, and here Botvinnik in his book writes that it was much stronger to play knight b6, opening the rook's way, and rook penetrates on c file. However, he didn't make this move. He played rook h6 instead, attacking the pawn, bishop g4 defending it, rook returns to c6, rook c1, f6, and here bishop f5. This is a final mistake, after which, with a simple tactics, Botvinnik wins the second pawn. I offer you to pause the video and find these tactics. So the move is f takes e, d takes e, and now knight takes e5. And of course, if king takes, then white is losing a rook. If rook takes, then knight takes, and black is 2 pawns up. And if white tries to pin the knight, it doesn't work, because king f6, and white cannot take the knight with a rook because of rook c4 check. And in order to save the rook, the only move is bishop e4. However, it leads to the exchange of all pieces and absolutely winning pawn endgame for black. That's why in this position Tal played rook d1, attacking d5, and also the knight is attacked. However, by playing king d6, Botvinnik defended both of them. Now bishop e4, the last chance, attacking d5 for the second time. However, rook c5 defends it, and everything is defended, and black has 2 pieces, and in this absolutely hopeless position, Mikhail Tal resigned.